Welcome to another episode of the Be Wise Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Y. Wright. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about what the hell's going on. Kind of ironic that I use that word. But what the hell's going on with all the religion that's taking place in America? We are actually in a post-Christianity world right now, meaning that church attendance is down. There are some areas of the country where it's down like more than 50% from where it was in 1990. People aren't watching church TV as much or not reading the Bible. Gen Z doesn't read the Bible. And less people are going to church. And that's called a post-Christianity society. Listen, I'm not here to argue Christianity, atheism, Judaism, anything like that, Islam. I'm just saying, I've never seen a topic so incendiary, so polarizing when related to politics. So we actually have this holy war going on in the MAGA movement right now and going on in politics in general. I mean, even today, there was this whole two disputes with Donald Trump. One was about his comments on Pope Leo. Let's take a look at that.
Why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social?
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they're outside 10 feet apart and they were arrested. So we don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, so that happened. Donald Trump versus the Pope. And then there was a picture of him on Truth Social depicted as what some say was Jesus Christ. He said, I didn't take it that way. And when you listen to his comment, first he said he did not post it, but then he said, oh yeah, I did post it, but I thought it was me as a doctor. A lot of Christians took offense to it on both sides of the aisle, even people who were in MAGA. And let's just take a look at what he said about it.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's
He
going
has
through
cancer.
some very serious cancer treatment, so
Yes, sir.
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Yeah.
Mr. President, are you...
Listen, I don't support everything Donald Trump does. And every now and then he just comes off as really disingenuous and stupid. But he's my president and I support him 100%. I can't say that that everything he does is aligned with my beliefs or my thinking or my religion. I'm a Christian myself, and I don't know, I can see how that picture could be quite offensive. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. This was just everything that's happened today or in the last couple of days. He's in this whole holy war. We're talking Zionism, religious liberties, and this whole Trump enigma. you know? But before I get started, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe and just support the channel if you can. I don't do this for money. I just do it because I enjoy it. Anyway, so we're just going to dive into some topics that is, honestly, it's a total mess, right? It's complicated, it's heated, and it's tearing through the fabric of our Republican Party in a way I've never seen before, you know? Now, before I start, I want to be 100% transparent with all of you. I am not a theologian. I'm not a political scientist. I don't pretend to have some master's degree in Middle Eastern history or some deep grasp of the decades-long Israel-Palestinian conflict. I'm none of that. I'm just someone with my own Christian beliefs trying to navigate a world that feels increasingly out of rhythm. You know, I don't know the ins and outs of Washington, D.C.'s back rooms, but I do know when things start to feel a little off balance. I do know that. And lately, there's just been talk of Trump's holy war. We're seeing a massive rift between Zionists and what people are calling anti-Zionists within the MAGA movement. We're seeing influencers fired, commissions dismantled, and a whole lot of people just questioning what religious liberty actually means in 2024. You know, is it about protecting your right to pray, or is it about protecting a specific political agenda abroad? That's what people are saying. So we'll get into it a little bit. So let's start with the friction. For a long time, right, there was this narrative that Donald Trump was the protector of the faith. But recently, we've seen this weird tension develop, specifically with the Catholic Church and a certain amount of prominent Christian voices. Let's take Candace Owens, for instance. And I'm tired of talking about Candace Owens, but I bring her up because she has so many followers on social media, and she actually does a show every single day, except on weekends. So she dominates YouTube Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday. Friday, she only does a special show. But whether you love her or hate her, she's a new Catholic. You can't deny, one sec, my phone went off and I try to keep it real. Okay, Jose. Anyway, but you can't deny this explosion that's happened when she started leaning into the crisis king rhetoric. Remember that? It triggered this massive fallout with the establishment right, and particularly those at the Daily Wire, if you remember. It opened up this huge debate. Can you be MAGA? Can you be a MAGA conservative and be critical of Israel? We're finding out no. And Candace became the face of this America First religious skepticism. And it sent like shockwaves to the base. And people started to take sides. And then you have Trump's own history with religious institutions. You know, he bumped heads with the Pope. As I just showed you, that's not his first time. He's done it before. He's alienated certain traditionalist wings of the Catholic Church. And it just creates this paradox. If he's the champion of Christianity, why does it feel like he's only a champion of a very specific kind of political Christianity? You know, many people in the MAGA world are starting to feel that religious freedom is being used as a kind of a shield. If you agree with the administration's foreign policy, you're religious. If you don't, you're an outcast. So there was that whole riff with Carrie Prejean Boller. She was on the Religious Liberties Commission. And a lot of the mainstream media didn't give this much airtime. Candace Owens did talk about it. Now, most of you may know her, you may not. Carrie Prejean Boller, she's former Miss USA, very vocal Christian activist. She was appointed to this commission, which is supposed to be the vanguard of protecting our First Amendment rights here at home. But then she was removed, and she didn't know why she was removed. And the rumors and reports surrounding that removal are fascinating. Very fascinating. Let's take a look here about her getting the call.
So then I got a call after I was on pins and needles. I finally got a call, and it was Dan and Paula. And I'll never forget. I literally remember
Dan
every
Patrick
word.
and
Yes,
Paula White.
yes, they called me and they said, "Hi, Carrie. I know you've been worried this past couple weeks, but." Dan started and he goes, "I just want to let you know we've been in meetings about your situation."
What situation?
Yeah, what situation that I'm posting about? God forbid I criticize Israel. Can't do that while serving in this administration. And he said, "I just want to let you know, Carrie, your job on this commission," I'll never forget this, Tucker. "Your job on this commission is protect the president and his reputation." He said that to me, the first thing out of his mouth. I couldn't believe it. I go, "What? I thought my job is protect religious freedom. I thought that's what he appointed me to do." And he goes, "You've been saying things online, Carrie, and you really need to stay off social media. Do not use social media between now and the end of your term." And then Paula White chimed in and she said, "Yeah, Carrie, you know what? You really shouldn't be posting about replacement theology. You shouldn't be posting about that. And there's a lot of people that are saying that you're an anti-Semite, Carrie, by your posts. And you're criticizing Zionism, and you're criticizing Israel. And we have a problem with that." And then Dan chimed in again and he got loud. He got real loud and he's like, "Carrie," because I pushed back and I said, "Well, wait a second." I said, what am I posting that is so offensive to you? That's against the rules of this commission, because I didn't sign anything saying I wasn't going to use my social media. I speak out about things that I care about. I'm a religious person. I'm a Christian." And he said, you've been saying things that go against, I'll never forget this. He goes, "You've been saying things that are not in alignment with the president and are not in alignment with Paula White and some of the other members on this commission." And that's when I knew that this commission was a fraud. It was pretend. It was not about religious freedom. It was about, you better be a Zionist. You better push our agenda or you're off. And that was in August. So we ended the conversation. Dan got really upset because I said, I really do want to keep posting. I'm not going to not use my social media. Can't agree to that, Dan.
So, yeah, that's what's going on right now with this whole religious freedom thing. So there's this growing chorus of people saying that these commissions, specifically the ones that's focused on religious liberty, aren't actually there to protect your rights to run a Christian business or homeschool your kids without government interference. That's what the commission was really about. Instead, critics are saying that they've been effectively captured. They argue these commissions are there to ensure that the Republican platform remains 100% aligned with Zionism and the interest of the Israeli government. And that's like Ben Shapiro's main war right now on social media platforms. He's fighting anybody that comes out against Israel and Zionism. Zionism, I guess, basically is exposed. What do you think?
Tucker, that I asked my priest, and I'll never forget, he's from Spain. God bless him. And I said, "Father, do you know what Zionism is?" He looked at me like I was an alien, and he's like, "What's Zionism?" I couldn't believe it. I said, "You realize in America that these people like Paula White, Dan Patrick, Ted Cruz, most of our politicians in government who have power, who are in the White House praying over the president, they're Zionists. They believe that 1948 Israel is a biblical prophecy fulfillment." He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, "Nobody's ever taught that." I said, "I know. And now they're forcing it on me, a Catholic, on this commission." It's really scary.
Zionism. It's like a buzzword. I don't think I've heard so many people talk about whether Zionist or anti-Zionist. I mean, it's all over social media platforms. I'm just a Christian. I believe in the Holy Trinity. I believe in Christ. I believe Christ is King. I believe in the Holy Bible. All this I just can't rock with it. But it has a major influence on our politics in America, on our geopolitical stance with Israel and the world, because we're basically telling the world, I mean, you can see from this war with Iran, people are openly attacking Islam. As a Christian, I mean, I can't believe in Islam, but I understand Islam, and I believe that you have the right to practice it if you so see fit, just like you have the right to practice Judaism. You know? And when Carrie, Prejean Boller was ousted, it just signaled to a lot of people that religious liberty had a caveat. You have liberty as long as you don't question the geopolitical status quo. If you start asking questions about where the money is going or how our religious values align with foreign wars, you're gone. You're gone. And Tucker Carlson, who I believe is a Christian. I don't know if he's Catholic, but I believe he's a Christian. He had both Ted Cruz on, and he had, as you can see, Ms. Boller on. And there's like this split in the Republican Party in real time. You just have to look at two different interviews that Tucker Carlson did. Now, in my opinion, Tucker Carlson interviewed Cruz with a much more aggressive stance than his interview with Carrie Prejean Boller. In the couple of clips that I just showed you, he was very kind of like complimentary of her, basically paraphrasing what she was saying, understanding. He wasn't combative at all. But you could just see a difference. If you look at her appearance, she comes on and she speaks from a place of personal conviction, talking about internal pressures and the way the religious establishment in DC operates. She represents this rising wing of the MAGA movement that is tired of the old school neoconservative ties. But then you have like, how that contrast with Ted Cruz, it's like night and day. Cruz represents the old guard, right? The wing of the party where support for Israel is not just a policy, it's a theological requirement. But like, watch this.
What's scary, Tucker, is these people like Paula White and Ted Cruz and Dan Patrick, they believe that the Dome of the Rock will be torn down and they will rebuild that third temple. They're saying it now. Look at Pete Hegseth. There will be a rebuilding of this temple. It is heretical and it is anti-Christian.
I know that.
Because they're going to bring in the animal sacrifices again. And the most anti-Semitic thing that they believe is that 2/3 of the Jews are going to be slaughtered. They're just manipulating them and using them. They don't really care.
Everything you've said is true. Jesus describes himself as the temple.
Yes, he is the temple.
He says that.
He is the lamb that was slain, the final sacrifice.
So you see how agreeable Tucker was? He was just so agreeable and empathetic to her strife and her plight. He gets it. That's not how he treats Ted Cruz. Hey, listen, I'm no Ted Cruz fan here. I'm just saying, if you want to be a good, moderate, middle of the road interviewer, nonpartisan, then you don't attack Ted Cruz.
When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets...
No, I'm not going to do a simple...
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And I don't... It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Why aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
and of being
isolationist
feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
You see, I thought Tucker was on the defensive. Cruz was on the defensive too, but he felt he had to because he's like, wow, I came here for an interview and this guy's fighting me. Like you could just see the friction. Tucker has become, increasingly skeptical of these foreign entanglements, while Cruz remains this staunch defender of the traditional alliance. And it isn't just a political debate anymore. It's like a vibe shift.
Was taught from the Bible. Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This
As wrong as Ted Cruz is, Tucker, I don't know, as a journalist, as a podcast, I've never seen Joe Rogan go after someone, a guest like that. I've never even seen Candace Owens go over after a guest like that. Tucker, I thought you attacked him, and it was just weird. But you got one side who says we need to focus on our own borders and our own faith, and the other side says our faith demands we fight these wars abroad. And the MAGA bases, we're just like caught right in the middle because we got this mess. People ask me every day, "Do you support the war? Do you support the war?" I go, "I support my troops. I support the soldiers that are involved in the conflict, and because I'm a military guy." I serve at the behest of the president. I just like to see, all right, let's see where this is going. But I just don't immediately come out and attack Trump for being in this war. And I definitely don't make assumptions about who's holding our hand or guiding us through this like Israel. But it gets really heavy, We have to talk about Gaza, And listen, I'm not an expert on the history of that land, but I do have eyes. Right. And a lot of people in the MAGA movement, people who traditionally support the military, are looking at the images coming out of Gaza and they're conflicted. Rightfully so. They see what's being perceived as a genocide, or at the very least, a level of human suffering that it just makes them uncomfortable. So for the first time, you have these MAGA Republicans saying, wait, is this what my tax dollars are for? They're seeing destruction of some of the oldest Christian churches in the world in that region. And they're asking why the religious liberty crowd in DC is silent about this. And that's where Carrie Prejean Boller came out and they were like, you can't talk on social media. And then you add into this, you add Iran into the mix. And we've been hearing for decades from Benjamin Netanyahu that Iran is months away from a nuke. That's all Benny's been saying, BB's been saying. It's the same drumbeat over and over and over again, and Trump couldn't ignore it. And now there's this growing sentiment that a war with Iran isn't an American war. It's an Israel war. Just a total mess. Total mess. And you have religious freedom, Zionism, Middle Eastern geopolitics, all thrown into a blender. And at the center of that is Donald Trump and MAGA. There was one more video I had here that I want to show you before we peace out.
Dan Patrick is saying, because you wouldn't denounce Candace as an anti-Semite, you went too far. So that's now in the Nicene Creed. Did the Council of Nicaea add this part kind of retroactively where you have to denounce a podcaster or you can't be a Christian or serve on a religious liberty commission? Like, what is going on?
This is where we're at, and you know this well. They want to call you an anti-Semite, and then once they put that on you and shove you in that box,
Oh, I know.
they want everybody else to come to the town square, and they want to watch you get publicly lynched, and then they want everybody around to denounce you. And if they don't...
Preparatory to you being arrested, because if it's against the law to have certain views and they claim that you have those views, you're in violation of the law.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show you that because they're going to keep pushing that this is where we're going. We're going to where religious liberty is gone. It's almost like, I don't know, Germany, World War II. You're going to start getting arrested. It's the Handmaid's Tale in the flesh that if you don't think or believe a certain way, and there's going to be a lot of Americans that are actually scared of that type of rhetoric. All right. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? I'll give you my honest take. And you might not like it. I believe Donald Trump, he's not a religious man. I just don't think he's a religious man. I think his God is money. That's not a knock. Before you come at me, MAGA and Trump, I support the president. I just don't believe he ever was a religious man. I don't think he has this personal relationship with these theological debates. I don't think he spends his nights pondering, the nuances of the new covenant or the historical significance of the Temple Mount. Right? To me, it's clear Donald Trump has zero real understanding of this religious conflict. He's a businessman and a populist. He looks for who can give him the most leverage, the most money, and the most solid voting bloc. And because he doesn't have deep-rooted religious convictions himself, he depends entirely on Zionists and high-level donors to guide his decisions and his policies in the area. That's not saying he's stupid. It's just someone in his ear going, your religious stance as a president is very important. And you better be able to eloquently and positively state it where it's believable. So he's outsourced his faith policy to people who have very specific, very political agendas. And Jared Kushner is one of them. Bibi Netanyahu might be another. He doesn't like the Pope, so he's not reaching out to the Pope. If the Pope was a conservative, he might. If the Pope was Trump, he might. But the Pope's not Trump. So he leans on Bibi, he leans on Jared Kushner, he leans on Turning Point USA. He's just caught between a base that is increasingly saying America first and a donor class that says Israel first. And as long as he's guided by people who prioritize Zionism over actual religious freedom for Americans, this holy war with the GOP is going to just get bloodier. But hey, that's just my view as a simple Christian trying to make sense of it all. If I was to become president today and they would ask me, hey, what's your views on Israel? I'd be like, I'm just a Christian. It's as simple as that. I wouldn't have an answer. And if they told me to get in line, I would have to really figure out who I'm getting in line behind. Can you imagine how many presidents have just avoided the whole issue? Obama didn't have to deal with this because they said he was a Muslim anyway. So he could just look at everything else and go, whatever. Biden openly didn't like Bibi Netanyahu and didn't really want to deal with him. He hardly ever said his name. He just said Israel. He would never say Netanyahu's name. But again, that's just my view as a simple Christian trying to make sense of this. I don't know. What do you guys think? Chop it up in the comments. Make sure you don't forget to like and subscribe, support the channel. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.